So we think that not only should Ethereum recover to the long-term average, it should probably get to the all-time high ratio and arguably exceed it as we start talking about Ethereum acting as the chain for both Wall Street to build its payment rails and the financial system, as well as AI. So let's think about what that means for price.
This Wall Street expert, Tom Lee, says cryptocurrency is about to explode, a new bull market has just started, and Ethereum's price is on track to hit $62,000 per one Ethereum coin. If you have a family member who doesn't quite understand the value prop of Ethereum, send him or her this video. They will thank you. Smash the like button, support the channel. This is the type of content we bring you daily on Altcoin Daily. It's incredibly interesting that 62,000 is only Tom Lee's base case. As you can see, 87,000, 125,000, 250,000, 350,000 are all on the table per one Ethereum coin. Make sure you watch today's whole video and we'll talk about this. Before Tom explains to you his price predictions for Ethereum, let's talk about why Ethereum will hit such astronomical prices. Institutions, Wall Street, even AI will be adopting Ethereum more and more. Listen to this whole clip.
So what does this mean? Well, in 2025, as the real world becomes digital, it's going to be natural to say, I want to find the digital store value, and that is Bitcoin. And I'm a believer in Bitcoin. But it's also going to create a market for digital assets. And we think the winner there is Ethereum. And in fact, Wall Street is building here on Ethereum. So let's just think about one story arc. What is Wall Street going to do to innovate on the blockchain over the next 10 to 15 years? Well, they're going to build stable coins, tokenize equities, credit, tokenize real estate. They're going to monetize reputation, even monetize an intellectual property. And a lot of this is happening on Ethereum. For instance, this is a tweet from Adriano Feria that Ethereum added $6.3 billion of stablecoins just in the last 7 days. Well, that's more than half of all the stablecoins Solana has managed to capture in over the last 5 years. It's more than the entire stablecoin supply on Hyperliquid, and it's 35 times the amount of stablecoin circulating supply on Ripple. And the stablecoin supply in Ethereum is now $160 billion. That's double where it was about 18 months ago. So you can see Ethereum is the winner here. And Ethereum has captured the majority of the real world assets. They're all taking place mostly on Ethereum. And SharpLink's chairman, Joe Lubin, agrees. He says Wall Street will stake ETH because they currently pay for their infrastructure and Ethereum will replace much of the many siloed stacks they operate. Again, you can see a lot of this is taking place on Ethereum. And it's not just Wall Street. AI is also building products on the blockchain. In fact, we think one of the big story arcs is that it's not just Wall Street building itself onto the blockchain. It's really AI converging onto Ethereum. One of the co-founders of Ethereum actually said this. He thinks Ethereum could be the key to AI decentralization and actually act as a decentralized partner in solving current problems with AI intelligence platforms. So what does that mean? Well, that means that you're going to monetize data collection, royalties, loyalty programs, verify agentic AI, and proof of humanity. That's also taking place on Ethereum. So you can see the future is quite bright. And that's why, we come back to this analysis by ethdigitaloil.com that Ethereum's productive essentially is the underlying token that's going to power both Wall Street and AI. And keep in mind, as you worry about supply, Ethereum's supply is growing below that of Bitcoin. And we also know as an asset class, if we think of Ethereum as digital oil, well, that's really what markets should be used to. From 1990 to 2018, ExxonMobil was one of the top 5 largest companies in the S&P 500, and it was always valued on a multiple of its price to oil reserves. So let's think about Ethereum's network value in that context.
Ethereum's price will hit $62,000 in the future. This is not a guess. This is logical. This is by the numbers. Tom Lee is confident in this price prediction. Listen for yourself. Here's exactly why Ethereum's price will hit $62,000 per one Ethereum coin in the future.
So let's think about Ethereum's network value in that context. Well, here's Ethereum's price since 2018. And as you can see, there's two periods I'm shading here. These are called bases. In Wyckoff's methodologies, they say the bigger the base, the bigger the breakout. And what they mean by that is that you're creating a lot of potential energy as a stock or a network asset bases, and then eventually leads to a breakout. Well, let's look at that breakout. In 2020, that breakout took place, and Ethereum went from $90 to 48.66, or 54 times increase. Well, the low point here in this base was 1385. So with this breakout, we're expecting an upside move. Is it potentially 54x? I'm not sure, but that's what happened last time. Another way to think about Ethereum is the Ethereum to Bitcoin ratio. And in our view, the tailwinds I'm talking about argue for an all-time high in this ratio. The 8-year average Ethereum to Bitcoin ratio is 0.04790, and it's currently 0.04032, meaning we're below the long-term average. The all-time high in this ratio was 0.080727. Of course, it started off higher, but I'm talking about the 2021 all-time high. So we think that not only should Ethereum recover to the long-term average, it should probably get to the all-time high ratio and arguably exceed it as we start talking about Ethereum acting as the chain for both Wall Street to build its payment rails and the financial system, as well as AI. So let's think about what that means for price. So I have a grid here. On the left side is Bitcoin price levels, and then going across are various levels of the Ethereum to Bitcoin ratio. Our year-end target, this is from the Fundstrat side, for Bitcoin is $250,000. And if you look at the 8-year average, okay, then you can see the range of prices for Ethereum using this ratio and different levels of Bitcoin. And here's the 2021 high. And as you can see, at a $250,000 Bitcoin, you get to somewhere between $12,000 and $22,000 value per Ethereum token. But that's just a ratio recovery. If you look at the replacement cost of payment rails and the banking system, that gets you to an implied value of Ethereum of around 60,000. And that puts the ratio at roughly 0.2500 Ethereum to Bitcoin ratio. And as you can see, that's how you get to $62,000 per Ethereum token. So plenty of upside. I also asked Fundstrat's Mark Newton for his technical take on Ethereum, and he thinks Ethereum could reach 9,000 by early January. According to him, Ethereum could reach 9,000 in late January, but he also believes that in September, Ethereum could be set to reach somewhere between 5,500 or so.
Like I said, $62,000 is only his base case. It can and probably will go a lot higher because Ethereum is the biggest macro trade over the next 10 to 15 years. Bigger than Bitcoin, bigger than Nvidia. Understand this.
To get to fair value for ETH, I mean, to me, the simplest thing to keep in mind is that I'm a fan of Bitcoin because I think it does store value exceptionally well. But I see many story arcs that are making Ethereum the biggest macro trade over the next 10 to 15 years. The first sort of path is that Wall Street is financializing onto the blockchain. We've got the ChatGPT moment with stablecoins, and now the Genius Act. And then secondly is, of course, Project Crypto with the SEC. But Wall Street is going to move onto the blockchain at the same time that AI and robots are really trying to develop a token economy, and we may see that on Ethereum. So I think Ethereum is the place where Wall Street and AI are actually going to be building a lot of products. So our view of $60,000 ETH is really just a simple sliver of that, just saying that if Wall Street builds a lot of banking activities and just 20% of that share is on Ethereum, and then Ethereum captures a similar share of payment rails, that's going to actually value Ethereum network at around $60,000 per ETH. So that gives no value to a global market developing, because our view is really just tracking it in the US and of course with AI. But another simple way to look at ETH at 60,000 is just to literally look at ETH at the 2017 lows and the magnitude of the move it made, which was more than a 10x. The reason I think that's happening is that in 2017, that was the Bitcoin moment when Wall Street discovered Bitcoin, and I think now this is the Ethereum's 2017 moment where Wall Street is discovering ETH, and a similar magnitude move would take you to 60,000.
You can make even more money trading crypto. This is an exchange I like. This is the best deal I've ever seen by any exchange. $100,000 in trading bonuses. Anybody can take advantage of this, but you must act quickly. This deal won't be around forever. $100K extra in trading bonuses. No KYC. Make sure you use our Bitunix Exchange link below. If you're interested in making money in crypto, subscribe to Altcoin Daily and start watching daily. We are your crypto edge. See you tomorrow.